Thanks for that.
Awesome. So, hi everyone. Welcome. Rachel is our HR. She'll be introducing herself in detail. Please prepare your questions, HR related, contracts, then working hours. She can answer them right now very well. So again, I'm recording this session for reference, and I'll share the recording after the presentation. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Rachel. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Becky, and welcome to all our interns for this year. As Becky has mentioned, I am Rochelle. I am the Global HR Manager for Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. As you have been working with HR since you have passed the interviews, I'm leading that team. So the team of HR is composed of Max and Anna, who you have been talking with when we're working on your offers and contracts. And yeah, we are here to support you as part of our 2022 data quality internship. We're very happy to welcome you. And for this session, we're going to focus on, as Becky has mentioned, going through some of the elements of your contract as an intern, but also to cover some of the policies and forms that we have sent you and you have filled out. So those are our code of conduct, conflict of interest policy, and at the tail end of our presentation, we will also discuss some of the other forms that we will be needing from you. So they are more related to tax forms, US tax forms, and banking form, which our colleague Che from the finance team will also be joining us later to discuss more about the banking form. So yeah, throughout this session, please feel free to jump in, raise your hand, or come off mute if you have any question or anything you need to flag. I'll be more than happy to cover any questions that you may have. Yeah. All right. So beginning with just quickly scan. Beginning with the type of contract that you have as an intern at HOT. HOT is actually, as I know, Becky and the rest of the team have also discussed with you how diverse and dispersed HOT is. That also means we have many different types of contracts when it comes to engaging people in our work. So in terms of the internship, data quality internship, the contracts that we have issued and we have executed for yourselves as interns falls under the contractor. So when we talk about the contractor status, it means that you are considered as independent contractors or engaged as um, um, interns who will also be able to do other work or other activities with other organizations or other companies as you feel free. This also means that as independent contractors, you are responsible for your own taxes. So at HOT, specifically, our registration is based in the US. If you are not based in the US or you are not registered in the US, we will not be deducting any type of taxes in your stipend and your internet allowance. This will be paid directly to you. So that means you will be responsible to make sure that you follow your own local regulations and any tax imposed by your locality. So it might be your national or local or state governments. This also means that as project contractors or as a contractor, intern contractor, Becky and the team will be coordinating some reviews with you in terms of your engagement in the internship program. Of course, we want this relationship and this experience to be very beneficial for you, and to make sure that you are maximizing and utilizing this opportunity in terms of your growth and development and learning as well. So I have mentioned earlier about the stipend and the internet allowance. So this benefit, it's actually not considered as wage or a salary, but this is more a benefit that HOT is providing to our interns, considering and also acknowledging that you are sharing your knowledge, your experience, and time with us during this internship program. So the hourly stipend is identified in your offer letter at the same time in your contracts. And that is according to our salary framework at HOT. So it's standard framework that we use. And the 20 US dollars per month internet allowance is given to you, paid to you as support for internet cost, given that this internship, for the duration of the internship, it will be remote and you're expected to use your own resources such as laptop, internet, and so on and so forth. So that is more a benefit for you, to support you in making sure that you are able to fully participate in the internship program. Oops, let me quickly check that. Okay, so in basically that's what the framework is in terms of a contractor agreement for an intern at HOT. Do we have any questions before I move on to some of the more policy oriented code of conduct and conflict of interest at HOT? Any questions from the group? Anything we have not covered in terms of the contract, stipend rate, or anything that you might be curious about? I am not hearing anything. I hope it's not my internet. Becky, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And
Okay.
I can't as well see any questions in the chat. I think no questions for now.
All right, perfect. That's good to note. Oh, and Becky has mentioned earlier about the hours. So as interns, and as per the design of this internship program, the hours are maximum 40-hour week. So that means it can be less, but the maximum is 40 hours. If, for example, you will be engaged or doing activities beyond 40 hours, before doing that, you must seek approval from Becky and our senior manager for community services, that is Sophie, who will need to approve any work or any activity beyond 40 hours per week. So yeah, if there are no other questions when it comes to contract, engagement, benefits, taxes, and so on, let's move forward to covering some of the important policies that you are all covered as you are engaged with. Yeah.
There's a hand raised from Kingsley.
Oh, yes. Please go ahead, Kingsley.
Okay, good afternoon from Nigeria. I want to get a bit clarification on the maximum of 40 hours. My question is, let's take, for example, we in Nigeria, we used to have in our local community of OSM, we used to have something like Mapathon and other engagements that we used to have as this internship is going on. If you exceeded 40 hours, just like you said we are going to have maximum of 40 hours. How are we going to do that? Are we not going to participate because we are trying to control to make sure we do not exceed that 40 hours per week. So how are we going to get that done?
Thank you very much for that, Kingsley. Firstly, when we talk about the 40-hour maximum, we're talking about the internship activities. So that is what the activities that Becky and the team will lay out on the internship program. So I believe that this program is designed with that in mind, that there's a 40-hour maximum engagement for interns. If in any case you have foreseen or planned that the activity will run more than 40 hours per week, the intern must seek approval first from Becky and Sophie. And that should be documented even via email that this is approved before doing the actual work. Otherwise, otherwise her finance department will not consider those hours for payment processes. Does that make sense? Becky, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, sure. So something that I wanted to add is that you are given from Monday to Sunday to accommodate the 40 hours. So just in case you have any other engagements in the middle of the week and you are not able to complete the 40 hours, you can use the weekends to cover the 40 hours. Like for instance, you had a mapathon over the week from your community and it was 1 hour. And that means you worked, let me say 39 hours a week from Monday to Friday. So you can work, do some work on Saturday to cover that 1 hour to make the 40 hours. Yeah. Or if you had engagements and you are not able to work over the weekend and you worked only, let me say 39 hours, it's okay. You can enter that you worked only 49 hours, or you worked only 39 hours, or you worked only 20 hours a week. So it's okay to work less, but it's not okay to work more than 40 hours. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. That is really helpful. So yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Felix. Any other questions with regards to that or any additions before we move forward? All right, I think silence as everyone understood. So moving forward.
There's one more question in the chat.
Oh, yes, please. Could you help me with that, Becky?
Awesome. So is the timekeeper only based on the time you start the mapping and the end of the mapping? So I'm going to give an example of today. It's like a normal regular work. You woke up in the morning, I don't know when you start, usually 9 a.m. and you started doing mapping, the one that we are doing. So you have mapped until now, and we have like an hour's training meeting right now. So that means you mapped for 7 hours and then you had a training session of 1 hour. So the 7 hours plus the 1 hour makes the 8 hours a day. So the 8 hours or the 40 hours a week are all calculative. You add them all plus the training sessions you have. So yeah, if you have 2 hours training session, you're going to contribute 6 hours to mapping, stroke validation, and other activities. Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions or follow-ups on that? So
there is one more that's saying, can we do 6 hours per day for the whole week to reach? No, you have to do if you're doing 5 days, you have to do 8 hours per day. So 8 times 5, that's 40. If you're doing 6 hours per day, that means you might have to work over the weekend to cover some of those missing hours.
Yeah. So is it okay for them, Becky, to organize their time across the days of the week to complete the 40 hours? So if they work 6 hours Monday, 8 hours Tuesday, or 6 hours, I don't know, for 5 days. Will that be okay?
Yeah, that's okay for as long as they make the 8 hour, rather the 40 hours a week. They don't have to go beyond
Okay.
8 hours. And they have to report if you are not able to work on a certain day. Let me say on Monday, you're not going to work totally. You let me know you're not going to be working so that I note that. And I know that you're going to cover the day on a Saturday, something like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So just to summarize, it's a bit flexible in terms of filling or fulfilling the maximum of 40 hours, just to make sure that you discuss and agree with Becky if you're working any other day aside from Mondays to Fridays, which are our normal work days. In the same way, if you see or you feel that you will need to work more than 40 hours, normally we do not consider the hours beyond 40 hours. So please seek approval first from Becky and Sophie before you do any work beyond 40 hours per week. Yeah. Is that good? Anything else before we move forward?
No questions in the chat. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So yeah, so moving forward, to some of the important policies that we have that we expect everyone engaged at HOT to follow, understand, and abide all throughout their engagement at HOT. We will cover our code of conduct and our conflict of interest policies. As you know, HOT is an international non-government organization working on humanitarian and development work, and we are a values based and mission-driven organization, and as you are engaged at HOT as data quality intern, you are also expected to behave in a way that we treat everyone, all persons, with respect and equally, irrespective of any status such as race, gender, religion, color, nationality, ethnic origin, language, marital status, and so on and so forth. At HOT, you will meet a lot of diverse people. You will learn from, work with, teach, and also engage with different staff, volunteers, and so on at HOT. So part of our code of conduct is that everyone at HOT is equal. We do not use any type of social, political, or any distinguishing feature to um, um, to treat to treat people differently from others. Another thing is that as you know, and as you can see, part of your cohort, the cohort 28 interns coming from 18 countries, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Becky? 18 countries?
Yes, 18 countries.
Uh-huh. So you see, you in your cohort alone, you have members and team that are coming from different countries who have lived in different circumstances. And of course, we have different values, cultures, customs, traditions, and so on. We always try to strive to avoid behaving in ways that are not acceptable in a particular culture context, and to make sure that we respect each other. However, we know that at some points, some cultures might be contradictory or contrary to international human rights instrument or standard. So as an international non-government organization, HOT collaborators will always be guided by the applicable human rights instrument or standards. So I think the main message here is that being a very diverse and dispersed organization, we must always keep at the back of our minds that our team members might be coming from different perspectives, having different cultures, customs, and traditions. So we must always keep an open mind, and always behave in a way that we respect each other, and collaborate openly and respectfully with each other. In terms of our code of conduct, of course, in all our policies at HOT, if there is anything at all that you feel uncomfortable, whether it is during a training session or throughout the course of your internship at HOT, please let us know. You can speak freely with Becky as the program coordinator of this internship, or directly to myself, HR, or whoever at HOT you feel most comfortable with. It is important for us because we value each and every one of you, and we value each and every one of our staff, volunteers, contractors, and everyone who makes up the global organization that is HOT. And we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and feels respected in the course of their engagement at HOT. So at any point in time, if there is anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, please speak out and share that with anyone at HOT that you feel comfortable with, and ensure that at HOT, whatever you share with your program coordinator, who is Becky, or Sophie, the senior manager for community services, or myself as an HR, we will treat it with discretion, and we will handle it fairly. Next one is in terms of sexual harassment and assault. This is one of the important policies at HOT as well, ensuring that everyone, as I've mentioned before, also leaning into our code of conduct, is that people are comfortable, safe, and they have a positive experience at HOT. So some of the examples of sexual harassment and assault is asking colleagues about marital or relationship status, asking colleagues for personal contact information, or contacting outside of work or non-work matters. We are working remotely, so I'm not sure if there will be if it's plausible in terms of touching, but one of the pitfalls for remote work as well is including sexual discussions, whether it be via text, Slack, or via phone call, and so on and so forth. Anything of sexual oriented discussion or messages are not acceptable at HOT. And if you yourself have felt like you are in that uncomfortable situation, or you see anyone that might be in that uncomfortable situation, please, as I've mentioned before, speak directly with your program coordinator, Becky, Sophie, or reach out to HR, myself, or our email, to make sure that we look into this situation. In the same way, it is also your responsibility to always conduct yourself in a respectful manner, and behave in such a way that it will not be construed as something attuned to sexual harassment or assault. Okay. Part of our policy as well is covering theft and inappropriate use of HOT assets. As you are intern, you are actually expected to use your own laptops and resources in terms of conducting the activities of the internship programs. But one thing that is attuned or might be applicable for the internship program is in terms of corruption and bribery, as at the same time fraud. So when we talk about fraud, it means a knowing misrepresentation of truth or a concealment of a material fact to induce another to act to his or her detriment. It is also an action taken to instigate, aid, abet, attempt, conspire, or cooperate in a fraudulent or corrupt act. Also constitute fraud or corruption. This could be financial, involving assets, or even time. As an intern, what can you see, or can you give me an example of what fraud might look like for an intern? Anyone have an idea or anything that first comes to mind? Anyone? So when we talk about fraud, given this meaning or definition, what could be something that would be a fraudulent act for an intern or in your context that might be applicable in your context?
I think an example will be lying about the hours you worked.
Thank you very much for that, Karen. So one of the things about fraud is it's not only about taking money. It's not only about taking assets. It's also about misreporting your hours. So for example, if you have reported 40 hours engagement in the internship program, but in reality, you have not been attending sessions, or you have logged in your your Zoom account but did not participate in the session, or did not map but you said you mapped and you reported your hour, then that's fraud as well. Another example of fraud is sharing, reporting, or giving us fraudulent documents such as IDs or information about your background and so on and so forth. So any documents that are not true is also considered fraud. Thank you very much for that, Karen. That's a very good example. So just like any of our other policies, your responsibility when it comes to fraud is, if you see something, say something. If you feel that there is something that is not right, it is not your responsibility to investigate. We do not want you to be in a position where you'll be in a unsafe or uncomfortable position. So if there is a possibility, or you see that there are red flags on something, feel free to flag it for Becky or myself, and we will action it. We will be the ones who will take the next steps. So we have mentioned about our reporting mechanisms. I have mentioned that the first line of reporting is through Becky as your program coordinator. We also do have a form online if you are more comfortable submitting it online, or to email HR directly. But the bottom line is that if you are not comfortable when it comes to these levels of reporting, your responsibility is to say something. So if you are more comfortable to get in touch with any other staff members or hot members, feel free to do that. Our main priority is that if there is any red flag, that it is being reported. Okay, so I think this would be the last policy that we're going to cover at this point, which is conflict conflict of interest. We have shared with you the policy and the form as you have signed the contract in terms of our conflict of interest. When we talk about conflict of interest at HOT, it occurs when an individual has an interest that limits your ability to act in the best interest of HOT. It could be actual, it could be potential or perceived conflict of interest. Can anyone quickly share an example of a conflict of interest that they could think of that might be applicable for your context or experience? Anyone? So Karen is safe now because she has given me an example. I will start calling names if no one comes off mute. Anyone? No? Let's see. Mark Jerome. Can you think of anything? Any example of conflict of interest that might be applicable in the context of the internship program?
Good evening from the Philippines.
Hello, kamusta?
Oh, hello. My example would be maybe an intern whose relative is engaged with HOT, but he or she wasn't able to divulge such such case to HOT person. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Jerome. I know it's quite late there, so I'm working your brains when it's so late in the Philippines. That is correct. So if there are any relationships that you have at HOT that you think might be a conflict of interest, then we asked each and one of you to disclose that in our conflict of interest form. It's not all relationships, because there are some relationships that might not be considered as conflict of interest, especially if they're not engaged in the internship program. So that means they might be working at HOT or engaged at HOT, but they're in a totally different activity or program or project that they cannot influence anything that goes within the internship program. But in any case, when we sent you the conflict of interest and disclosure policy and form, we asked you to disclose any actual, potential, or perceived conflict of interest in there. If there is anything that you missed out there, or you feel that you have not included there, please feel free to reach out to Becky as your program coordinator if you want to add anything else, because we can definitely resend you the conflict of interest and disclosure form to make sure that we are covered. So I think that's the bit about our policies in terms of your internship program at HOT. For the duration of your engagement at HOT, I think the things that you need to put at the back of your head is that these policies are in place to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, safe, and dignified when they are engaged at HOT. So respect. That's how it is at HOT. We respect each and every one, and whenever we collaborate with other people, to make sure that we collaborate in a positive manner. And lastly, your responsibility is to say something if you see something. Yeah, so I think that's it. Any questions before we move forward to more admin processing, talking about tax forms and banking forms? Any questions on our policies?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, I think that's good. Let's move forward. I think, is Che here now?
Hi, Rachel. I'm here.
Hello, Che.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello. So Che is part of our finance team, and he will be discussing the banking form right after I cover this tax form that we will be asking you to fill out. I know that we have asked you to fill a lot of forms when you have onboarded as an intern at HOT. There are still these two forms that we will be needing from you in the next week. So that is the W-8 BAN and the banking form. So the W-8 BAN is basically since we are registered in the US, it is a tax form to state that you are an individual that is based outside of the US, or based, or an individual or a citizen in the US, but are not required to be taxed in the US. So this form is basically for us to say that, or to report to the US government that we are not going to deduct any taxes from you. I understand that we have worked actually on the cohorts, nationality and residency, and it seems that none of us in this program cohort in 2022 would be taxed in the US. So basically what we ask of you is, when we send this form, we will send this via DocuSign, which is the same app that we used for your forms, for your agreement initially. So you will see on this first part is the identification of beneficiary owner, which pertains to yourself as the individual that we will engage. So all the information, all your personal information is needed here. Your name, country of citizenship, just to make sure that if you are a US citizen, then we might need some more forms from you. If not, then that should be fine. Permanent, just to make sure that you are not based in the US, because if you are based in the US, then we will need some more forms for you. But if not, then you should be fine. And then mailing address, only if it's different from NA, are not applicable here. And then US tax identification number. This is only for those who are US citizens or those based in the US, where we are required to actually report US taxes. If this is not applicable for you, please put NA or not applicable. In the same way, foreign tax identifying number, this is more for people or individuals who are foreigners, or those who are not US nationals but based in the US, where we are also required to report US taxes. So if this is not applicable for you, please also put NA. Reference numbers, these are only applicable if you have inputted any numbers, whether it's US tax identification number or foreign tax identifying number on items 5 and 6. Otherwise, you can put NA or not applicable here. And then lastly, 8 is date of birth. Of course, this is your date of birth following the month, this format, which is month, date, date, and the year. So the part one is a bit straightforward. It's only pertaining to yourself. Part two is only applicable if you are claiming any tax treaty benefits. If you did not add anything on fifth and sixth, that means most likely you will not be required, or you are not to claim any tax treaty benefits. This is more pertaining to countries where there is a double taxation agreement. So for example, UK and the US, they have double taxation agreement. So that means the stipend that we will provide in to you or someone in the UK or based in the UK will not be double taxed. So they will only be paying tax in the UK, for example. But because we are reporting interns as independent contractors, most likely you will not be required to fill this form. Please get in touch with me directly if in case you have a specific situation where you will need to claim any tax treaty benefits in your country versus the US. And then part three, or the last portion of this form, is certification, just to make sure that all of these items you have understood and you have filled out this form up to the best of your ability. And then of course your signature, you're the beneficial owner, and then the date you signed the form, and yeah, so that's it. Print name of signer, capacity in which acting, if only you are not the one who filled out the form and you have asked someone to fill it out on your behalf. So yeah, so basically this is the W8 ban. Are there any questions, more general questions with regards to this form before we move forward to the banking form?
No questions in the chat.
Okay, I think that's straightforward. If you have any specific questions when it comes to your tax status, when it comes to any tax claims and so on, please reach out to HR. We will share our emails to you at the end of this session, and we will share the presentation to Becky as well. I will hand over now to Che to discuss about the banking form. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you, Rachel. I'll share my screen. Rachel, can you please stop sharing so I can share my screen, please? Thank you. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up.
No, I can't see it.
Right.
It's just saying Che has started sharing screen.
Right. Just a few seconds. Let me see what's. Still not?
It's still blank.
Would it help, Trey, if I share the banking form, or
Yes,
do you
please.
have anything
Yes,
else?
please.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
If you can give me the share screen rights.
Right, okay. Thank you very much, Rachel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Like Rachel said, my name is Chemuta Asaa, the Global Finance Associate at HOT. And once again, congratulations to all of you who were selected for this internship. I'm going to be talking about the banking form, the HOT banking form. And like you know, we will be making a number of payments to you. And as a result of that, we need some information, your banking information, in order to make these payments. And we make these payments through bank transfer. And like I said, as such, we need your banking information. And this is a form you have to fill in order to provide us with the information we need to make the payments. And so I'll go line by line, trying to explain to you the information we need from you. So the very first line is your name. Given that you are not an organization and you are not a business, what we need there in that very first line is your name. So you have to write your name clearly in the first line. For example, you can see Ariana Grande, that's the name of the person whose banking information we need. So we'll move down to your address. Given that you're not a business, we'll move down to your address. So you have to provide us with your current address, the street, city, and the postal code. I understand that not every house in every country has a street name and a postal code. So even in my country, Cameroon, not every house has a street name and a postal code. So you would try as much as possible to provide us with the information you have. Try as much as possible to provide us with as much information about your address. There are certain countries where you must provide us with that information, else it will be difficult for us to process your payments. For example, if you live in Australia, our system requires you to provide us with the street address, the city, and the postcode before any payments can be made to you. But for some countries, it's not very, very important. And then you have your country. You have to indicate you live in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Malaysia. You have to indicate the country there. The next section is your contact information. You have to provide us with your email and your phone number. Again, for some countries, this is really, really important. For example, if you live in Brazil, you have to provide us with an email and a phone number. Else, it would be difficult for us to process your payments, or our system would not allow us to process any payments without your email and your phone number. Again, the email is very important in that when we make payments to you, you would be able to receive a notification immediately the payment has been done. So your email address, if not provided, you will not get the notification of any payments made to you. We'll go down to the next section where we're talking about the banking information. So in the very first row, you have individual or organization name exactly as listed on your bank account. So you have to provide us with your name as listed on your bank account. If you don't do that, then it becomes difficult for the receiving bank. Sometimes if you don't provide a name as it is on your bank account, the funds will be returned to us. And again, if the funds are returned, then we have to make the corrections before we reprocess your payment. So, and that takes a lot of time. So it is very important that you give us your name as it is on your bank account. So the next line talks about your address on account, if different from section 1. Sometimes you may be living in a different country and you have a bank account in another country, for example, so the address on your account may not be exactly the address, it may not be exactly your current address. So in that situation, you need to provide us with the address that the bank has. Again, if you live in a different country, you have to provide us with the country where you have the bank account. Where you have address on account different from section 1. So the next row talks about the account currency. So for that, is it the Kenyan shillings? Is it the franc CFA? Is it the US dollar? Is it the euro? So you have to indicate there the account currency. And then the bank name, you have to indicate the name of the bank in the next row. And then you have the bank SWIFT for international payments. And the bank SWIFT allows us to identify an individual bank, which means that if you don't provide the bank SWIFT, it becomes difficult for the payments to identify your individual bank. The next is the bank address. So you have to provide us with the bank address in that row. And then the country, the next row talks about the country where the bank is located. And then the next row, the bank account number, you provide us with your bank account number there. You have the IBAN number. The IBAN number will be provided to you by your bank, and it helps overseas banks to identify your accounts for payment. So the IBAN number is also very important. You have if you live in the US, or you have to provide us with the routing number. Again, this form tries to capture as much information as possible for every country or for every bank. But again, there are currency-specific bank information we need. And this list is not exhaustive, which means that there are some countries where we need additional information to be able to process your payment. For example, if you live in Brazil, or if your account is in Brazilian reals, Colombian pesos, or in Peruvian sol, you need to provide us with with your beneficiary tax ID. So please take note of that. You need to provide us with your tax ID. If you are in Mexico, they have what they call the CLAP. You have to provide us with that. If you are in Mozambique, you have the NID code. You can ask your bank for that information. If you're in Nigeria, the Northern, the Peruvian sol, you need to provide us with the CCI. If you live in Britain, or if your account is in the British pound, you need to provide us with a sort code. Like I said, this list is not exhaustive. For example, if you live in Kenya, you need to provide us with the bank branch code for us to be able to process your payments. And then we have the last section, which talks about accounts outside US dollar accounts outside of the US. For example, if you live in Malaysia and you have an account in the US dollars, you need to provide us with your intermediary bank information. The intermediary bank is simply the bank that acts on our behalf when we send payments in US dollars. It acts as a middleman between us and the receiving bank. So if you are living outside of the US and you have a bank account in the US dollars, please make sure you provide us with the intermediary bank information. That is very, very important. And also to note that we encourage all our employees to provide us with accounts in their local currencies and not in the US dollar if you live outside of the US, because if you provide us with a US dollar account, that may delay your payments. So we strongly encourage all our employees, interns, and contractors to provide us with accounts in the local currency. I think that is it for the banking form. If you have any questions, I will be ready to entertain them. Are there any questions?
Hello.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, you said if you have a US dollars account, that it's preferable to use a local currency account. So right now, if you're submitting our information, we should just stick to the local currency instead of the US dollars. Is that it?
Yes, that's not to say that we would not process your payments if it's in the US, if your account is in USD, but we encourage everyone to provide an account in their local currency.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, finance will be working with HR to process or to enter your banking information, which means you would have to submit the banking forms to HR, and HR would send them over to finance for processing. And if there is any information which is missing from your banking form, then I'll contact you individually to get the information you need. But like I said, please try as much as possible to fill the form, provide as much information as you can so that we can process your payments on time. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Che. As Che mentioned, after this call, you will receive an email from HR, instruction on how to submit your banking forms. And we will also send the W-8 Ben form for you to fill out and sign via DocuSign. In order for us to make sure that we have everything in place and for Che and the finance team to have enough time to double check everything, the deadline to submit all of these documents will be after a week's time. So even as early as now, if you don't have all the information with regards to your bank account, like your SWIFT code, IBAN, or so on and so forth, please get in touch with your bank as soon as you can, so that you will have all the information ready accurately and on time in order for you to submit your banking forms. As we've mentioned, if you have any questions that we have not covered in this session, please feel free to reach out to us. We will share our emails to you, and Becky is also there if you want to have some more guidance. I think that's it. Any questions before we close? I'm mindful that we are 2 minutes over the time.
Did you catch that, Rachel? She seems
I
very
did
low.
not. I'm not sure if it's my internet. I heard someone talking, but I was not able to understand.
Yeah, same here. If you're unable to speak well, could you please type in your question in the chat? Otherwise, there's just one thing I wanted to mention. Please do not send me your bank details. You send them to Rachel and the team on that. Yeah. Are you able to speak now, or you're going to type your question in the chat? I didn't even catch the person that was speaking.
I think it's Jenny, if I'm not mistaken. And in the chat, she asked if HOT covers the currency conversion fees or transfer fees. Do you want to talk a little bit about conversion and transfers, Che?
Yes, Rachel. HOT covers any conversion fees. So if, for example, we are paying you in the franc CFA, the rate on that day is the applicable rate. The rate that the system generates on that day is the applicable rate, and you receive exactly the same amount. No amount will be deducted from your stipend, from the receiving bank, or from the bank doing the payments. So yes, the cost of transfers is borne by HOT.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Che. I think if there are no other questions, please expect an email from HR with regards to instructions on how you submit your banking form within the course of the day, and also the deadline to submit them. If you have any questions at all, what we will do is we will include Che's email as well in that instruction email that we will send you, so you can always get in touch with us if there's anything that we haven't covered in this session. And yeah, thank you very much, and welcome again to everyone, and hope to get in touch with you in coffee chats or in the course of your engagement at HOT. Welcome to the team.
Thank you so much, and Rachel. In case you have any questions, you can also reach out to me. I'll forward your questions. Che and Rachel are also on Slack channel. You can reach out to them there as well. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.